With Neil Gaiman's Sandman series, we find a writer who has worked out a lot of different characters. 75 main issues and various other side stories. A hodgepodge of story genres. Whether it is a plucky adventure with a brave princess and her companions, or a dark murder mystery, you cannot deny that Gaiman and his team put a lot of effort in the world-building aspect, drawing from mythological or historical sources. These sources express themselves as, on the one hand, characters such as William Shakespeare, Caesar Augustus, or the eccentric extremist Joshua Norton. But there also are whole concepts that Gaiman took inspiration from. One of these would be Greek tragedy. With being the prime version of tragedy, these Greek theater plays do have a very tight framework on which they operate. Defined by Aristotle in his work Poetics, he specifies what exactly a tragedy should do and what not. Now, what does all of this have to do with the modern comic book series Sandman? In one of the Sandman specials, called The Tale of Orpheus, the son of Morpheus goes on a personal mission to save his wife Eurydice from the underworld, realm of Hades and Persephone, wanting to bring her back to life. But despite every person surrounding Orpheus telling him that he cannot rescue Eurydice, his over-reliance on his abilities keeps this burning fire inside his heart alive, sealing his eventual downfall. One of these figures, trying to stop Orpheus, was his father, Morpheus. And now the dots connect. Compared to Greek tragedy, there always was a group of singers on stage with the actors. This choir would be a bunch of strict realists, criticizing and even foreshadowing the already destined downfall of the tragic characters. What's interesting to note is that the original tale had Apollon as Orpheus' father, who took a more supportive role for his son's decisions. But with Morpheus, quite the opposite is the case. His function as the choir is actually hinted at during the beginning of the story. Orpheus asks his father about the dream he just had. "I have had a strange dream, father. I was floating on the sea, calling my wife's name. What does it mean?" Morpheus responds that this dream will possibly be happening in his son's future. Little warnings floating through time, being limited only by destiny, which is why Morpheus does not want to expand this conversation, or else he risks the intervention of what will be. Fate goes on unhinged, as can be seen with the eventual death of Eurydice. Orpheus, in his despair, comes to seek support in his father's realm. The suggestion of Orpheus to go into the underworld for the rescue of his wife is quickly blocked by Morpheus. This try to avert the inevitable fate of his son does not work, and Orpheus goes on his own. The choir did all that stood in its might. It can only observe the following actions. After the lone soul's realization and downfall, the choir comes in one last time. At the lowest point of Orpheus' tragic life, his father once again takes the role as the onlooker and the observer, not intervening in the tale. He simply judges Orpheus for all his errors and mistakes. "You were unwise to seek favors of death, but you have made your own errors. It was your own life." Then, finally, as Orpheus begs for his suicide, The choir does not take an active part in the tale, because it does not have to, because it does not want to. It realizes that this story is over, so it has no further purpose to be in it. Morpheus walks away, never even trying to look back. A meaningful callback to Orpheus' own mistake, looking back, trying desperately to see Eurydice. Orpheus, an active figure, receives consequences for his actions, while Morpheus, in this last line, shows his pure perfection as the choir of the tale of Orpheus.